you agree with LeBron that this won't be a rebuilding year?
Well, I mean, if you want to get down to the nuts and bolts of what rebuilding year would be, right, that would be going down before you go up, whereas I think it's a building year. And look, we're all sitting here and we're going to say they're not going to beat the Warriors, they're not going to beat the Thunder, they're not going to beat the Rockets. But you got LeBron James who, I mean, didn't he just take, you know, the Cavs roster of a bunch of different parts? Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, Tristan Thompson. You know, Tristan Thompson with the Kardashian issues and J.R. Smith being J.R. Smith. And, hell, they should have beat Golden State game 1.
Yeah.
They could have beat him game 3.
Exactly.
Right? So in spite of the fact he lost Kyrie Irving, so we can say it makes no sense for him to think that they can compete with the Warriors. But he's been to the finals how many straight years with all those different parts? I think it's a building year, not a rebuilding year. And I know that's semantics, but I think that actually matters to somebody like LeBron. And I think that you can tell him he can't, but there's nothing in his career since he originally left Cleveland that would allow you to believe he can't recreate Miami. He can't recreate Cleveland in a completely new sense. And I find it a challenge, and a challenge is what a guy like this needs to go to work every day with great energy and enthusiasm. So I think it's more of a building year in which they will be more competitive than people think, but maybe it's me getting lost in the semantics of building as opposed to rebuilding.
No, I think you're right. I mean, there's no way this is a rebuilding year. Maybe last year was a rebuilding year for the Lakers, where a rebuilding year is if you don't make the playoffs, you're okay with it. If they don't make the playoffs, now, it won't be a disaster if they don't make it because you get rid of the vets on one-year deals and maybe you bring in a Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, whoever. So it wouldn't be a disaster, but it would be an abject failure.
It would be, but isn't that a disaster?
No, well, disaster.
Now I'm challenging your semantics.
I say it wouldn't be a disaster because you could change it like that. You just
but
get rid of
if
Lance
they don't make the
Stevenson
playoffs,
and all those guys.
If they don't make the playoffs, Luke's getting fired, right? Luke's getting fired.
Yeah.
All those guys are gone.
That's not a disaster. I mean, Luke Walton's not Phil Jackson, not Steve Kerr.
I understand,
so
but
my point is
abject failure, it would be bad.
You could change it quickly.
Okay.
If you miss the playoffs and bring in Kevin Durant, nobody's like worried. Okay, or Kawhi Leonard or whoever.
No, so but the season would be a disaster.
It would be, like I said, it would be a big failure.
Okay.
It would be a big failure if they miss the playoffs. But this is a building year. As you said, you got all these young guys around LeBron. I mean, last year they won 35 games with Lonzo and some other guys being hurt and missing a good chunk of games. I got some numbers here, and talking to some people close to LeBron, they think Brandon Ingram could play like a Scottie Pippen role. Now, that might sound crazy to some people that just see him as a forward. But last year, you know, Doug, a lot of times the Lakers have felt like he could play point guard.
Correct.
And he did in the last few months of the season at maybe point forward.
Yes.
His numbers, 17.5 points over the last 2 months, 54% shooting, 51% shooting from 3, and 6 assists, 5.5 assists a game. So he's a versatile player. No, this is not a rebuilding year. This is a year in which I think they could make some noise. They should make the playoffs and make some noise in the Western
Conference. Is it safe to say feel-out year? We know how LeBron takes playoff series. His game ones are feel-out games for him. Is this a feel-out year?
I think that's a great point because
in how they play, who he wants, the personnel on the team.
Well, remember Magic Johnson set the bar low, and he said like we could get off to a slow start. And I think that's what he's like.
LeBron's teams have in new places,
right? That it's going to be a feel-out situation. I think that it's really important that when everybody looks at the Lakers roster last year, and you're like, okay, well, Ingram is this. Like, nobody stays the same. One, you added in a great player who's also a great passer and a willing passer at that. Secondly, Brandon Ingram's 20 years old. It's reasonable that he will be a better player in year 3 than he was year 2, right? Josh Hart, it's in his second year. He was the MVP of Summer League. He's going to be better. Contavious Caldwell-Pope, who's a veteran in this league, but he had a year in which he started off being suspended because of the DUI. Then he couldn't travel to road games because he was essentially on house arrest, you know, when he was with the Lakers. It's reasonable to expect his second year in L.A. will work out better than his first year. Lonzo's going to be better in year 2 than it was in year 1. My point is that no one stays the same. You get better, or maybe you start to age and you get worse. And I think it's reasonable to expect that these young players get better, 1, because of maturity, 2, because they have an outstanding player development program, and 3, because they're playing with LeBron James. And so I do think they're a little bit better then people will give them credit.
The interesting thing for me is going to be to watch LeBron in the West, night in, night out. Now, a lot of people, one of his
I feel bad for Nick Wright. Like, poor Nick is going to be staying up all night, watching the games, come in completely just punch drunk from watching. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
One of his great claims to fame is 8 straight appearances in the finals. And look, fact is, if he was in the West, it wouldn't have been 8 straight.
Correct.
It would have been like 2. I mean, that's how many he won during that 8-year stretch of going to the finals. So, that's what I want to see. In the East, he could take anybody and get them to the finals. What's that look like in the West? I've said throughout the prime of his career, he could go to any team in the league and make it a contender. Now, let's see what he does with this. Because it's not.
Let's see if those words ring true.
Yeah, especially at this stage of his career, can he do that with these guys? I mean, look, that Cavs team that just went to the finals probably would have went out in the first round in the Western Conference.
They nearly went out in the first round of the Eastern Conference.
Right,
the Pacers almost beat. I mean,
so
7 games.
It's going to be a greater challenge for him out West, and I want to see how that.
But you're predicting MVP for LeBron.
Yeah, I'm predicting 53 in the MVP.
Don't worry.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.